Boys and girls, we just left off with why cities grew, mainly along the rivers, because this is basically the highway back then without there being a highway, right? Rivers move things mainly downriver with ease and basically cheaply. Okay. Here's a potential essay question you could find in your next test for chapter 10. So pay attention to these. Good and bad things about city life. So we have these cities growing because they have factories and they're using those rivers as water power to move the spinning jenny and the power looms and things like that. So that again is why those cities begin to grow along the rivers. Some of the old Rust Belt cities that we hear of in the East Coast. But here, let's cover the disadvantages to city life. Cities grew so fast, so quickly back then that they were overcrowded. There just wasn't enough housing for everybody. The streets were not paved, they weren't even brick unless you lived in the rich areas of the towns or cities. So there were a lot of ruts, like the wagons going in, you'd have the differences in elevation, and it was a horrible place. And don't forget, there was no plumbing, so there was no sewage. People literally took their waste bucket, their poop bucket, and threw it out in the street. So disease spread rapidly. So, as good as the city was, there was a lot of negative there. But let's cover the positive. What is good about city life? Number one is a variety of jobs. Think about it. You don't have to farm and toil in the hot sun or the cold anymore, raising cattle or growing crops. It's a huge advantage. You could go work in a meat market, you could work in a cloth factory. There were options for you, and a lot of people enjoyed that. Second, there was steady wages, right? If you show up to work, you get paid for that day's work. In farming, you don't know if you get paid. There's risk of earthquakes out in California, which wasn't an issue back then. But what about hurricanes? What about tornadoes? What about hot, extremely hot and dry weather where your crops wouldn't grow? That's out of your control. What about too much rain and flooding? All that could destroy your crop, and come harvest time, you would have nothing. Okay. The other thing cities began to do is offer entertainment. Things like libraries and museums started to pop up and offer an alternative to just sitting around in the country. All right, next slide. Here's a little brain break for you. Pause the video if you're interested in it, or skip it over, but look for the first three words you see. All right, in Thursday's class, 2 classes ago, you finished recording your chapter 9 video. In last class, I wanted you to do the reading on 10.1 and answer a few questions, and also do a choice video, Eli Whitney video or the Lowell Mill Girls video. Today is simple. I want you to answer one question for me in one complete sentence. In one way, show me how the Industrial Revolution was positive time in US history. You might do this by showing how life changed, explaining how one invention changed lives or work, or explaining what benefits came with the change in work. You can find all that stuff by jumping Schoology into your chapter 10 folder, all right, growth and expansion, going into the blue 10.1 economic growth folder. And you'll find it as your third task. Be sure that you finish all 3 tasks by the end of today. Good luck. Keep it up, Shattuck. You're doing great.